Hi, so we've looked at the Phaedo and made some comments about how to do philosophy. Now I'd like to make a few comments about how to be a philosopher. And I gather these comments under the heading Socrates does not have any opinions. If we look at Socrates, he is a paradigm, an ideal example for Plato at least, of a philosopher. So by looking at Socrates in the dialogues, we can learn what a philosopher is like and what a philosopher does and how we should be if we want to be philosophers. And what the dialogues show us about Socrates, therefore, is that what I think is philosophers don't have opinions. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, I say Socrates doesn't have any opinions because Socrates specifically does the opposite of forming an opinion. The opposite of expressing opinion is drawing a conclusion from an argument. In fact, a famous tagline of Socrates happens in many of the dialogues is the phrase that basically boils down to follow the argument wherever it leads. He encourages his interlocutors to do that all the time. So here's a couple examples. Analyze our hypotheses adequately. You will, I think, follow the argument as far as a man can. And if the conclusion is clear, you will look no further. That's from the Phaedo. In the Republic, which we didn't read, but something much closer to the way I was quoting it, we must follow the argument wherever like a wind it may lead us. And in another dialogue, again, another one that we didn't read, the Crito, not only now, but at all times, I am the kind of man who listens only to the argument that on reflection seems best to me. Similar sorts of comments were made in the Apology as well. Well, let's take a step back for just a second. What do we mean by an opinion? I think I mean pretty much what you probably mean. An opinion is a view or a belief that we express without having any knowledge about whether it goes one way or the other. St. Thomas defines an opinion as an inclination, a leaning towards one side of a proposition. So a proposition, something like all men are by nature wonderful. Or maybe another proposition, cats make great pets. So if you have an opinion, you lean towards, yeah, I accept that. I think that's true. Or the opposite will tease, I don't think it's true. Okay. St. Thomas also says something weird, taken with some fear that the other side is still true. So an opinion is not knowledge. We don't know whether this is true or not, but this is what we accept, what we adopt. So a kind of an opposite side would be doubt. So doubt would be the opposite of an opinion. Opinion is something that we believe. Doubt is something that we don't believe. So a doubt is I don't think cats make great pets. Do you know? No, I have no idea. It's just my opinion. Okay. Now, there's nothing wrong with opinions. We take them all the time. Some people base their careers on studying our opinions. There's such a thing as opinion polls. Well, there might be something wrong with taking too many opinions. I don't know. There's certainly something wrong with thinking things that aren't opinions are opinions. And a lot of people do that. They think most things, maybe a lot of things in humanities courses, philosophy, history, are just people's opinions. If you think this, you will be making a big mistake. It's important for when we think about philosophy. Philosophy, at least, is not about giving your opinions, not if we believe Socrates. Philosophy is about drawing conclusions and helping others to see what sort of conclusions need to be drawn, ought to be drawn. This is an important distinction that I think people miss, particularly at the beginning of philosophy. Now, you might be thinking, well, Socrates had opinions. Didn't he have? Wasn't one of his opinions that he knew that he wasn't wise? He thought that that's what wisdom was. That's in his opinion about wisdom. Well, if you go back to the Apology and reread that section again and look at it, you'll find that that's not what happened. Socrates started with the Delphic oracle's oracle, that no one is wiser than Socrates. Then he went out and talked to so-called wise people, and he found out that the wise people were no wiser than him, and he also realized that he wasn't any wiser than them either, so he drew the conclusion that if he's wise, it must be because I know that I am no wiser than anyone else. So you see there's an argument there. You are the wisest of all men. These wise people aren't any wiser than me. I'm not any more wiser than them. We're all kind of equal. But if I'm wiser, it must be because I know that, and they don't know that. So it was another example of a conclusion that Socrates drew. Now, it's very hard to change people's opinions. Once we have an opinion, we do not let it go easily. This shows another difference between opinions and drawing conclusions. Over and over again, Socrates asked his friends to refute him. You might remember this being done in the Gorgias. He says this to Gorgias at one point: I am one of those who are very willing to be refuted if I say anything which is not true, and very willing to refute anyone else who says that what is not true, and quite as ready to be refuted as to refute. For I hold that this is the greater gain of the two, just as the gain is greater of being cured of a very great evil than of curing another. How many people want their opinions knocked down? Okay, it's probably because they're opinions. It's not the sort of thing that we want changed. But conclusions are the sort of thing that we drew from reasons, as we learned in the argument interlude. So a conclusion could very well have been drawn wrong. So it makes perfect sense for Socrates to say, if I've made a mistake, if I've drawn the wrong conclusion, the best thing you can do for me, the best thing that I can do for myself, is to make myself aware of that and to change the conclusion, to get the correct conclusion. So we can say that philosophy is not only drawing conclusions, but it's drawing the correct conclusions, at least as correct as we can make them. So the next time you're tempted to write philosophy off as nothing but valueless opinion, remember Socrates' adage about looking for the argument. Better yet, why not decide to have no opinions and pledge to follow the argument wherever it leads? You might learn something about what's so.